Good morning, Sakiv. Good morning, Bluebells. It's so nice to see you. How are you doing today? I'm glad you're here. Baruch atah Asherah, Anat Melecha Ha'olam Asher Kedeshanu Mitzvotav V'tzivanu L'hitativ L'tzitzit. There we are. Thank you, Bluebells. What are you up to today? I am still sick. I have a cough, I have a runny nose, a mild headache, but, it's really not that bad. Excuse me. I basically just had one day that I was bedridden, right? And yesterday I was able to give a farm tour. So, I'm doing alright. The rest of the commune, not so much. COVID has a way of, infecting our social fabric, not just our bodies. But so it goes. But nonetheless, we can be here. We can be here together today. I'm glad you're doing well, Sakiv. It's really nice to see you so reliably. Good morning, Rebecca. That's really sweet. I wish I had that kind of confidence in myself. What is my opinion on marijuana and the use of it recreationally? I get that question a lot, and it's not a question that I relish answering, because it's complicated for me. I've had a long-standing relationship with marijuana, although I haven't been smoking in the last few months, because I started seeing a therapist with my father, and my father made a precondition that I stop smoking in order to seek therapy with him, because he believes that I'm deeply delusional, and that my gender transition is due to a preponderance of THC in my body that has caused me to believe irrational things, like that I'm actually a woman. Really, some of your art videos are inspired by me. You should send them. Post a link. If you check out the link in my bio, you can join my Discord server, and I would love to see some of those videos. Yeah, so Rebecca, my relationship with marijuana is complicated. I do think that it has the potential to be abused. I also think that it can improve people's lives. And I cannot tell you what role it plays in your life or what role it should play in your life. That is up for you to decide. But maybe my advice would be try not to take advice from anybody, right? Because other people's opinions will mess with your mind and totally warp your perception of your own reality. So, yeah. Thank you, Each Song Holds a Memory. I appreciate that. Good morning, Batya. How are you? Good morning, Freedom. Sorry I missed your comment. Hello, Vintage. Vintage Soul. Hello. So, what is for breakfast today? I don't think I'm going to be eating breakfast on stream today, because I'm still rather sick. And so my appetite is poor. I am eating, but I'm eating very simple. I do have some rice in the rice cooker, but I'm not hungry right now, so I'm going to eat it a little bit later. Basically, all I eat these days is rice, until my body readapts to being a fully healthy person. I don't sound so nasally. Yeah, I mean, COVID is never really a nasal infection. I do have a little bit of a stuffed nose. But mostly it's just a kind of fatigue at this point, right? My symptoms are all extremely mild. I'm just tired. What countries do I want to visit? I have plans to go to Palestine as soon as I have time. As soon as I finish my obligations with the university, I will go to Palestine for about 6 months. This is my first time getting COVID, yes, and I did get vaccinated, but it's a very crafty illness. I do have ginger to make ginger tea. I have been making ginger tea for my partner. She was sick too. There's a lot of comments today. Welcome, everyone. I'm doing okay, Bloody Babe. Da-da-da. Thank you for the finger hearts, Dr. Punk. Dr. Punk, what are you up to today? It's really nice to see you. Good morning, Katie. How are you? Yes, my partner lives here with me. She's on the live streams on occasion. I'm quite confident that many of you have met her. But she's still asleep right now because COVID. We all got sick. You never got COVID and you're not vaccinated. Well, lucky you. I imagine it is only a matter of time. But, some people will avoid it by a matter of chance. Roll of the dice. So, I think we should begin with our morning ritual. So we'll start with some vocal warm-up because I have some congestion. I mean, we start with vocal warm-up all the time. But we'll start with some vocal warm-up, and then we'll move on to the Shema and the Vahafta from the book of Deuteronomy. And then we're going to move on to a new book on Isis and Osiris by Plutoc, right? So Plutoc was a Greek priest. He was known as the head priest at the Oracle of Delphi for Apollo, but he was a scholar of sorts, and he wrote about the Osiris myth, and it's actually the oldest rendition of the Osiris myth that we have. And I don't know, I'm going to read at least a portion of this with you. I don't know what the quality is going to be like, right? This is a 1934 translation of an ancient Greek manuscript that was poorly translating Egyptian manuscripts and lore. I don't know how accurate Plutarch was about the story of Osiris, and it's certainly, unfortunately, it's not written in verse. Like, I really like reading you things that have been translated in verse because they're meant to be transmitted orally, whereas Plutarch was writing history. So we'll read it. We'll start reading it at least, and I may not like it, and I may shift to something else, but I really do want to read the Osiris myth, and this, unfortunately, is the best we can do, because none of the Greek authors wrote down a coherent myth from beginning to end. There's like fragments of the Osiris myths and the pyramid texts and things like that, but unlike, say, the Baal cycle or the story of Atrahasis, which was put down in one piece, we don't have a single document which recounts the entire story of Isis and Osiris. So, let's begin, shall we? Good morning, Taryn. How are you? Good morning, Meg. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahad Vahafta et Anat Elohecha ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודייך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר נוחי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך ובדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך וחיה כי ויחיו אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר נשבע לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר למילת וברות הטובים אשר לא עשת כערים וזיתים אשר לא נתת והלכת ושבעת הישמר לך פן תשכח את יאמר אשר תשכח מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. Listen, Israel. Listen, you who struggles with God. Yahweh Eloheinu Asher Echad are one. All these gods are one. We repeat their names, but they're all the same. And why should we repeat their names? Well, you shall love Yahweh Eloheinu with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. And these words that I repeat to you today, teach them to your children. And recite them when you are awake and when you go to bed, and when you are traveling and when you are at home. And you shall bind them as a symbol on your hand and let them serve as a sign on your forehead and inscribe them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. And when Yahweh Eloheinu brings you to the land that he swore to your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to assign to you, great and flourishing cities that you did not build, houses full of all good things that you did not fill, hewn cisterns that you did not hew, vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, and you eat your fill, take heed that you do not forget Yahweh, who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. So, let's go to Egypt, shall we? Let's go to Egypt. We're going to read about the myth of Isis and Osiris. And I warn you, I have not read this before, and I have some doubts about its readability. But we're going to try. We're going to see what Plutoc, the priest of Delphi, had to say about the story of Isis and Osiris. So where do we begin? The following myth is related in the briefest terms possible, divested of everything unnecessary and superfluous. I don't believe you, Plutarch. They tell that the sun, having discovered Rhea secretly coupling with Saturn... Right, so this is the problem with this translation. We see right up top that he's using Greek names to refer to the Egyptian gods. Anyhow, they tell that the sun, having discovered Rhea secretly copulating with Saturn, laid a curse upon her, that she should not bring forth a child either month or year, that Hermes, being in love with the goddess, copulated with her, and afterward playing at the counters with the moon, and winning from her with the 70th part, one of each of her lights, winning from her the 70th part of each one of her lights, out of the whole composed 5 days, the which he added to the 360, which days now the Egyptians call additional, to keep the birthdays of the gods. And on the first of these was born Osiris, and that a voice issued forth with him in the birth, that the Lord of all is entering into light. So this is difficult to read. Like, he puts prepositions in weird places, so I stumble a lot. Anyway, we're going to continue on. But some relate that a certain Pamli, when drawing water out of the temple of Jupiter at Thebes, heard a voice, ordering her to proclaim with a loud cry, "The great king, beneficent Osiris, is born." And for this cause she nursed Osiris, when Saturn put him into her hands, and also the festival Pamilia is celebrated in his honor, resembling in character the phallic processions. On the second was born Eros, who some call Apollo, some the elder Horus. On the third, Typhon, neither in due time nor in right place, but breaking through with a blow, he leaped out through his mother's side. On the fourth was Isis born, in the very wet places. On the 5th was Nephthys, the same as End, and Venus, who some call Victory. They say that Osiris was begotten by the sun, and as also Eroris, by Hermes Isis, by Saturn Typhon, and Nephthys, that Osiris and Isis fell in love with each other, and copulated under the cloak of darkness in the womb. Some say that in this manner was Erois begotten, and therefore is by the Egyptians the elder Horus, by the Greeks Apollo. So Plutarch here is engaging in some very intense and, in my opinion, heavy-handed syncretism, where he's like merging the Greek pantheons and the Egyptian pantheons. And this was appropriate for the time that he was writing. He was writing in the 1st century, right? So there was a tremendous amount of synergy happening in the Eastern Mediterranean, where the Levantine religions and the Greek religions and the Egyptian religions were all swirling around and combining, and eventually we get Christianity to emerge right at the time that this Plutarch was writing. But of course Plutarch is attempting here to give us a summary of a past myth, but people's understanding of time so long ago was very different, and their access to primary sources was very different. So this story that we get of Osiris is really a story about Plutarch in the 1st century, but nonetheless we can continue on. Hi Pamela, how are you? It's nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. Okay, we'll read one more section. Yes. That when Osiris reigned over the Egyptians, he made them reform their destitute and bestial mode of living, showing them art of cultivation, and giving them laws, and teaching them how to worship the gods. Afterward he traveled over the whole earth, civilizing it. Far from requiring arms, he tamed mankind through persuasion, and reasoning joined with song of all kinds and music which he brought over. Wherefore he is held by the Greeks to be the same with Bacchus. That Typhon, during his absence, did not rebel, because Isis was on her guard, and able to keep watch upon him vigorously. But after Osiris returned, Typhon laid a plot against him, having taken 72 men into the conspiracy, and having for a helper a queen coming out of Ethiopia, whom they call Aso. Right, so I think Typhon here is Set in when we hear the story in most renditions of it, but Plutarch is calling him Typhon, the sea serpent. That she secretly measured the body of Osiris, and made the size of a handsome and highly ornamented coffer, which he carried into the banquet room. And as they were all delighted with its appearance and admired it, Typhon, that is Set, promised in sport that whoever should lie down within it, and should exactly fit, he would make him a present of the chest. And after the others had tried, one by one, and nobody fitted in, then Osiris got in, and laid himself down. Thereupon the conspirators, running up, shut down the lid, and fastened it with spike nails from the outside, and poured melted lead over them, and so carried it out to the river, and let it go down the Tyronite branch into the sea. Which branch on that account is hateful and unlucky for Egyptians to name. These things are said to have been done on the 17th day of the month of Athor, when the sun is passing through the Scorpion, Osiris then being the 8th and 20th years of his reign. Some have it that he lived, not reigned, such a time. And with that, we will pause and continue to read about Osiris another day. So what we have in the story so far is that there were a number of gods born, notably Isis and Osiris and Typhon, or Set, and Horus too, maybe. And Osiris is the king, and he brings lots of culture to the people, but his brother conspires against him and creates a coffin and says, Osiris, why don't you just hang out in this coffin? And Osiris is like, yeah, that's an Egyptian thing to do, right? And then he locks him in the coffin and sends him down the Nile into the Mediterranean Sea. Excuse me. My friends, I'm weak. I'm a little lightheaded. I haven't done much today, and yet still I am lightheaded because I am still sick. Good morning, Andy. Isis is scary. So, yeah, the Egypt mythos. Yeah, I understand you, and that's really all that's necessary, right? If I were to say it, I would probably say I like Egyptian mythology, but that's not because the word dig or Egypt or mythos are wrong words. There are many ways to say everything. So, now we will move away from Egypt and move to India, where we will say Arati. So these words come from the Bhagavad Gita, and the word Arati means light or flame. Alistair Crowley got you into it as a wee lad, right? That's great. I like to know your influences, Dr. Punk. So, the word Arati means flame. Here we have our little flame. It's what we're made of. Arati goes like this. Jaya Jaya Arati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jaya Arati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jaya Arati Venkanta Ramana Sankata Harana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Jaya Arati Gauri Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jaya Arati Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jaya Arati Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jaya Arati Dattatreya Trimutri Avatara Jaya Jaya Arati Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sankarachaya Advaita Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jaya Arati Vishnu Devananda Jaya Jaya Arati Agastya Munaye Shriyama Priyaye Jaya Jaya Arati Ayapa Swamine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jaya Arati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jaya Jaya Arati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nanak Gurave Samastya Gurubho Namaha Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Natatrasya Bhati Natandrakara Tamnima Vidyobhati Kutaya Magni Tameva Bantamabandi Sarvam Tasya Basya Samitamevanti Gange Kayamane Kaiva Govari Saraswati Narmade Siddhika Veriya Namastitam Namo Namaha Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Bandisha Saka Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Kayena Vacha Manasendriyarva Buddhyatmanava Prakrite Sabhavad Karomi Adyad Sakalam Paramahe Narayana Iti Sarmar Payami Sarvadharmam Parichayamam Kam Sabanambraja Am Sva Sarva Papayo Mokshayami Masucha. Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you. Thank you so much for joining me today, friends. It means a great deal. So, now we will say Kaddish. So, as I have said before, and will say again, the word Kaddish means prayer, or sacred, or holy, right? Kaddish, We say Kaddish over the wine on Shabbat. So, Kaddish is a prayer of mourning, a prayer of grief. It's a time that we can try to let go of the things that our mind is holding on to that are causing us pain. So for the last 2,500 years, give or take, my ancestors have said these words to respond to death, and I feel very grateful to be able to share them with you today. So let's say these grief words together. Yed Kadal, Yed Kadash, Shema Rabba. Biama Divrach Yute, Biam Lichmal Hute, Bachayachon of Yomechon of Chayed Kolbe Israel, Bagala, Bisman Karivim, Amen. Yehe Shema Rabba, Meva Archli Alam, Almei, Almaya. Yed Barach, Vishtabach, Vid Baar, Vid Ramam, Vid Naseh, Vid Hadar, Vid Alei, Vid Halal, Shema de Kudasha, Barichu, Leila Min Kol Birchata, Vishirata, Tushbechata, Venechemata, Diamiran, Biama, Vimru, Amen. Yehe Shlama Rabba, Amin, Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu, V'chol Yisrael, Vimru, Amen. Ose Shalom, V'ramav, Huya, Ase Shalom, Aleinu, V'chol Yisrael, Vimru, Amen. Ose Shalom, V'ramav, Huya, Ase Shalom, Aleinu, V'chol Yisrael, Vimru, Vimru, Amen. Thank you so much for being here today, and all of the many days that you are here with me. I'm so grateful. Every time I say it, maybe I can say grateful enough times that I'll actually believe myself, or you'll actually believe me, or my life will be what it is. I don't know. I'm a little lightheaded. Tomorrow I'll be a little bit healthier, and the day after that I'll be a little bit healthier. I very rarely stream in something so simple, but I didn't really have the energy to put on a nice dress and makeup, so you just get me like I am, but I'm doing okay. Thank you, Dr. Punk. You're amazing too, Freedom. So, the blurb. If you appreciate this stream and you appreciate what we do here, one of the best ways to support it is to check out the link in my bio to subscribe on Patreon, or you can leave a one-time tip, or you can subscribe through TikTok and get lots of fancy emojis, or you can just hang out here and say nice things to one another. But your presence and your support means the world to me, and I'm very grateful. So, Dr. Punk is modeling the behavior of unique emoji for all of those people who might want such a thing. So, I will see you here tomorrow to say these words again, and until then, I hope you have a really lovely day. Okay, farewell.